Webinars. Today is webinar 110th, and we're going to talk about tactics in my Rapid and Blitz games. No, actually, just tactics that you can apply in Rapid and Blitz games by the examples of my own games. Okay, so we are of course waiting for more attendees to come. Let me check how many people joined us. Not much. I mean, not many. Okay, I'm streaming this webinar on Twitch and on YouTube. Okay, guys, please let me know if the sound and video quality is good. Okay, everything is good. Okay, by the way, guys, if you attend my webinar for the first time, please introduce yourself just a little bit. Tell me which country are you from, what's your current rating. It can be either a FIDE rating or just chess.com or Lysyj rating. If you have any suggestions of what I should do during the webinars, of what topics I should cover, you can of course suggest it and message me, and you can even email me. At tricksofchess@gmail.com. Okay, Andrea from Italy with almost 1200 FIDE ELO. Oh, yeah, it's slow, but I think you can improve a lot. By the way, I'm going to create such a product that first I have to test, and while I'm going to test it, it will be almost free, or with just maybe $5, so something very cheap, just to make sure that you won't give up. I want to create such a product where I just take maybe 10 or 20 is enough, just 10 students, and try to help them to improve as fast as I can during 1 month, and then we check the progress. I believe the progress can be really high if these people are passionate about chess and if they want to improve quicker. I'm going to announce this product maybe later this week or next week. Okay. Anyway, let's start. So, I played in the tournament. It was one of the stages of Russian Chess Rapid Cup. I played well. I scored 7.5 of 11, which is not bad, but I lost maybe I lost 15 points of my rating, which is again not so bad, because I haven't been playing for 2 years. Can you imagine it? So after the pandemic started, I decided that it's better just to stay at home and try not to go out. But right now I see that nobody can tell when it stops and when all sports activities will be allowed, and so that's why I decided that I can't wait too long. I can't wait. So that's why I decided to play the games. And before these games, I was trying to play Blitz just to get back to my best condition. No, I'm not in the best condition at the moment, but I think in the second day, this Rapid tournament contained of 2 days. In the first day I scored 2.5 of 5, and in the second day I scored 5 of 6, which is a good result. And I think that if there was a third day, I would score even more. Okay, fine. Let's talk. I'm going to demonstrate you the game that I played in the third round against Candidate Master, whose rating was 2050. I was playing with white pieces, knight f3, g6, so it's accelerated dragon, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop g7, knight c3, knight c6, bishop e3, knight f6. And of course I knew this line. I played bishop c4, the castle, and now I have a question for you. What can happen in case of white castles? I didn't play this move because I knew. However, castling looks like to be the logical move, but actually because the accelerated dragon was played and there is no pawn on d6, black can apply tactical strike and simplify the position. What would you suggest for black? Guys, what black can do to be able to equalize the position? Who knows? Yes, thanks. It's 94. So Gregor from the United Kingdom suggests this move, and absolutely correct. Now d5, getting a minor piece back. In this position, the pawn on c6 is a weakness, but it's not a big problem. These bishops can be developed successfully. b2 is probably the weakness, so it's approximately equal. That's why if I want to keep the advantage and also keep the position more complicated, I have to retreat. And this is where my opponent played a5. Who knows why a5 was played? What's the idea? Oh, I'm sure that maybe there are some dragon lovers between us, among us, and they know why f5 is played. I'm not a fan of dragon. I don't play it with black, but because I play this opening with white pieces, of course I understand how I should play and what was the original idea of a5 move. If you don't know, could you please just guess? No, to discourage castling. No, I don't think so. I can still castle queenside if I want, but no, the idea is... No, it's not minority attack. The idea of this move is to distract my pieces. They intend to play a4, and if I capture with the knight... No, I'll show you, actually. I played this move, and then I was okay if they play this. For example, no, I have two attackers, so why not to take, you may say. But if I take, a knight e4 comes. The knight is distracted, then they take, and actually they got my bishop and exchange the edge pawn for the central pawn. No, you may say, okay, why not to take on c6 maybe first, but then knight c3 and the queen is hanging, so it doesn't make much difference. If knight e4, actually that was my plan, then I sacrificed the pawn in the center, but took the a1. However, after knight b5, their queen side is weakened now, and I can take the advantage of it. For example, rook a6, c4, d6, queen e2, bishop e6, maybe then I can just centralize my rooks and try to attack the d6 and maybe undermine with c5. That can be the plan. So I knew that this is the best strategy according to what grandmasters play in this position and what the engine confirmed. So that's why I was prepared for that. However, my opponent decided to combine two different lines. Instead of a5, another possibility here is to play knight g4. Queen takes g4. No, you see they are taking on e3, so they give up the knight to be able to take the central one on d4. Then I have to retreat my queen to pressure on d4 and at the same time not to fall under d5. So queen d1, knight is hanging, they take, I take, a7 is a weakness, but here it's fine. I can, it's not obligatory for black to take, but if they take, I get my queen to the center and then I can apply two plans. One is the h-pawn attack. The other one is just to get the knight to d5, exchange this knight for the enemy bishop, take with the pawn and open the e file so that I can later attack with my rooks. So I was prepared for both options, but my opponent decided to combine them, and here he played queen knight g4, so queen takes, then I go back. Knight takes b3, a takes b3. Right now looks like there is a weakness on b6, so he plays d6. What do you think white plan should be here? What's your opinion? Bishop d4 to swap the bishops. This is a good idea. I agree with you. What else? Yeah, e5 exactly. e5 creates a weakness. Okay, fine. So yeah, bishop d4, this is the best move to exchange and then maybe move the h-pawn or play knight d5. I played knight d5 immediately, which also makes sense because right now I'm threatening with this. Then I can capture or maybe play knight c7. That's why rook a6. Another thing I want you to notice is that the pawn is not hanging. Bishop b6, if they play this move, I'm able to gain the pawn back, maybe even with b4 move. Maybe immediately with the bishop threatening with knight b6 fork. So I was okay with this line. They didn't take, so then I decided to swap the bishops. e5, which in my opinion is a mistake because it gives up the control over the center. Bishop c3 to put the pressure on a5. e3 was another possible move. f5, of course, f3, and this is where my opponent should develop his pieces, maybe with this move, with bishop e6, but they played b5 with the intention of playing b4, sorry. What's your opinion? How to continue for white in this position? What white should do? So b4 right now, myself. Yes, that makes sense. Queen d2. But if queen d2, what if they play b4 themselves? Queen d3. Okay, Gregor, can you please explain your suggestion of queen d3 move? That's right. That's right. So queen d3, and in case if they play b4, what they exactly played. Of course, the best move was maybe bishop d7 to secure, and then I was planning to play b4 to attack the a pawn. Here, if they play b4, I can just take on b4, and if they take, I gain the minor piece back. That's it. So the guy just blundered the pawn. The idea of queen d3 was to create a pin. So b4, bishop takes b4, f takes e4, f takes e4, rook takes f1, queen takes f1. This is what I calculated before taking here. And the move that I was expecting him to play was queen h4, threatening here. What do you think? What's the best reaction to queen h4? Queen d3? No, queen d3 is not the best. Knight c7. I don't know. Knight c7 maybe works, but queen c4 is the best move, of course, here. I didn't see this move, but this is definitely the best option. Knight f6 or knight e7 with queen g8 mate. However, my intention was to play bishop e1. And in case if queen takes, then I wanted to play knight e7, and after queen f7 there is no defense. But he first played rook c6, I took on e5, and now I played bishop e1 with the same idea. Queen goes to g5, h4, which wasn't the best option, but it was still okay, and rook a7, threatening to go to f7 and checkmate. So for some reason he just took and blundered the back a mate on the 7th rank. But if in case of bishop d7, what do you think? How white should continue? Bishop a5 deserves attention. But what if bishop a5, then queen e8 maybe? What else? What else do you recommend? Hello everyone who joined us recently. Thank you for joining, by the way, because we have just a few attendees. Maybe the reason is because we skipped several weeks and didn't. I was celebrating New Year, and then I was also participating in the tournament. No, not 97. 97, queen e7. What's the purpose? It's just queen b5, threatening to take on c6, and then knight e7 fork. For example, in case of queen e8, I would play like that. Queen takes, queen c6, queen takes c6, knight e7. I am one minor piece up. If they play rook c7, attacking my queen, then I can play queen b6 and pin them. No, rook c8, take, and then, for example, bishop a5. Another option is just queen b7, double attack, and a pin. So that was one of my maybe best games from this tournament. However, let's now stick to the main plan of our webinar. Today I wanted to tell you which exact tactics to look for when you play Rapid and Blitz games. So when you are low on time, you shouldn't calculate something really long, because if you calculate it and then you realize that it doesn't work, then it would mean that you spent a lot of time for nothing. So you would get into time trouble, and then would make bad moves or even blunders. This is how you can even lose the game. That's why you should be looking for simple tactics that you are able to calculate. Maybe these tactics doesn't win the game immediately, but allows you to get some small advantage that you can later exploit in the game. For example, like I played, not in this exact game, this is in one of my other games. So in this game I played simple tactics only. It was Caracan c5, d takes c5. So if, for example, e6, my plan was to play a3 with the intention of b4. However, we don't play b4 right now. First knight f3, knight s7, bishop d3, and then after they play knight c6, we can play b4 and bishop b2 to secure our pawn in the center. Because a5 is usually a weak move, which allows us to get a strong point on b5 for our knight. That's why a3 b4 is a real problem for black in this position, and that's why this line is considered to be in white favor. So knight c6 was played. I knew this variation, but not the entire, only a few lines here. Bishop g4, c3, e6, bishop e3. This is a theoretical move. However, guys, I want you to tell me what happens in case if they take, because my knight is pinned. What do you think white should do to continue? What was my plan? Bishop b5. If I play bishop b5, they play knight c6. I don't think it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Knight takes e5, just gaining the knight, because if they capture after bishop b5, the only thing they can do is to block with the queen. And this is how they lose everything. I can even capture on f7 and take the rook if needed. For example, f6, knight f7, and I take the rook. So here I am at least a rook up. That's why e6, bishop e3, supporting the pawn on c5, but I have to give up the one on e5. However, this time this move doesn't work, because if they play this move, can you please tell me what I prepared? Queen a4. Yes, it's queen a4. Anirudh, I believe that was the answer to this question, not to the previous one. Queen a4. What now? If, for example, no, what? If knight blocks, they just give up the bishop on g4. If king moves, I can simply take on e5. If queen goes there, then I have this move, after which they have only to block with the knight and lose their bishop on g4. So that's why black player took on f3, then knight e5. Bishop b5 anyway, knight has to block on c6. Castle, knight f6, c4, knight c3 was the best plan. However, I actually didn't repeat this variation. That's why I only knew the first 10 moves. I played knight d2, which is not bad actually. and then b4 castle. And here I'm sure you understand that black would play e5. This is their goal. I should either take the advantage of this move or prevent it. I'm not sure if I can take the advantage. Maybe if my knight was on g3, I would play knight f5. But right now it's impossible. So I decided to prevent this move and play bishop f4. This is how I stop e5. However, my opponent still played e5. Okay. Yeah, perfect that you joined. I believe all our old students will come later, maybe to the next webinar. Yeah, but I want to collect the audience once again, guys. You remember once it was about 100 participants on my webinars. Right now there are only maybe the maximum is 30. So bishop f4 prevents e5, but my opponent played e5 anyway. What was the small tactics here that I prepared? How do I gain the material here? Not much, but a small combination that offers just one extra pawn. Who can tell me? Maybe Anirudh knows. So it's bishop takes c6. No, yes, it's bishop takes c6, because if they take this bishop, I capture on b7, and the pawn on e4 is also hanging. But what if e4? If e4, I can just simply take. So you see, you don't have to calculate much. Knight e4, and if d takes, then the bishop escapes, and I have two extra pawns. If knight takes, then I can capture on b7. If they capture my bishop, I can at least capture on f6 and get one extra pawn, or I can retreat with the knight and end up with the extra pawn. I decided to retreat there, which is actually the best move according to the engine, with the intention of playing knight f5. And I also didn't want to improve their bishop on e7. That's why I didn't take. Usually I would capture just to simplify, because I have extra material, but this time the bishop is really bad and I don't want them to improve it. That's why this move. So queen d7, rook f e1, just improving my pieces. a3, which was not obligatory, they take. I take with the a pawn. I could capture with this, but I wanted to stop d4, d5, maybe undermine them with c4, and I also didn't want to make the pawn on a3 a weakness. That's why I took with this pawn. Bishop f8, bishop g5, bishop e7. My opponent was low on time. Knight f5. And in this position I could just capture on e4, I could just take on e7. But because of my opponent was low on time, I decided to play a more complicated move. Can you please, guys, guess this move? Any suggestions are welcome. You can suggest either something natural or something complicated. The position is completely winning. Knight e7 is the most simple move that offers enough advantage. For example, knight e7, then what? Rook takes e7. Then I don't know what to take, but maybe I'd better take. No, if I take here, No, if I take on e4, then d takes e4. This is what I didn't like. Then rook takes there, and my queen is under the attack. So they're threatening with two mates. It doesn't look good. No, then just bishop takes e7 is okay. However, I played queen g4, like Gregor suggested, queen g4, threatening with knight h6. My opponent played this move, knight e7, I exchanged the queens, and then I was playing against a girl, so she resigned. So I was improving my position move by move. So let's say here bishop f4 to prevent e5, she blundered it. She didn't calculate this line, however it was quite simple to calculate. And later in the game, after knight f5, the position is really dangerous because this is my plan. It could capture the other pawn. So that's why when she got low on time, she got a bit nervous and played this move and blundered. Okay, now another position. This time I was playing against maybe 18 years old guy. He played the Lapin variation with c3. I'm black. Guys, if you took my course how to play Khan Sicilian, it's actually called the Victorious Khan or the Victorious Khan Sicilian, don't remember exactly, on Chessable. There I suggest knight f6 as a more universal strategy because knight f6, e5, this is a very playable position. You can play e6, I'll show you. C takes d4, c takes d4, e6, knight f3, d6, so you undermine and equalize. This strategy also works in case if your opponent plays Smith-Morra gambit. Take, c3, you may take if you want, but then you have to learn the lines. However, if you play knight f6, you just transpose to a Lapin and then d6. Because I know both lines, I sometimes play this or that. There in the game I play d5. E takes d5, queen d5, d4, e6. They are threatening to take on c5, and I don't want to capture with the queen. I want to exchange the queens, and at the same time I want to protect the pawn on c5. So e6, knight f3, knight f6, knight a3. With this move they want to play either knight b5 and knight c7 or knight c4 and knight b6. For example, if I play this move, then knight c4 is coming. I knew this move, knight c6 is the best. And then, for example, if they play this move, I move my queen back. This is what exactly happened. D takes c5 is the main move, after which I take here. Queen takes queen, king takes queen to avoid the fork. Bishop f4. And what do you think about this position, and which move do you recommend black to play? Okay, knight d5 is one suggestion. Who else can suggest anything? Instead of knight d5, what other options? Guys, if you play this opening, that can be even an insight for you. So knight d5 only equalizes the position, but if you want to play for a win and get a slightly better position, then you should make a more complicated move. No, e5 with the pawn doesn't make much sense. They just take with... No, e5... No, e5 doesn't make sense. They take, knight takes, bishop takes, rook e8. That is actually the idea. But then castle, and there is no pin anymore. No, e5 doesn't work. But a better move is knight e4, threatening to take there. For example, if castle, king goes there. Knight c7, no worries, knight f2. Knight e8, knight d1. What then? King takes, just bishop d6, the knight is trapped. And I'm a one pawn up by the end of the combination. If let's say they continue with knight c7, this is where I can play e5. If knight e5, king c7, and there is no good discovered attack, for example, knight f7, king b6, knight h8, but bishop f2, then the king has to go to a light square. I activate my bishop to g4 and capture the knight in the corner. So this is what you can learn. Actually, it's not published in my course, so if you take a private lesson with me, then I can demonstrate a lot of these tricky lines where black can get a small advantage, I would say. So the opponent played bishop f4, and this is a critical mistake. Now knight d5 looks really strong. Bishop retreats there. a6. So you see, I spent one move with the queen, then the second one to d6, and then even two moves. So queen d5 and queen d8, two moves with the queen, but he spent two moves with the knight and one extra move with their bishop. So knight a3, c takes d4. If pawn takes there, then bishop d4 and the king has to move. If knight blocks, then I can capture the central pawn, but the king moves, I can play f5 and f4, even trap the bishop. Or I could just capture there, and in case if he takes, I deliver a fork. Yeah, that should be better. In this case, I can play f5 with f4 threat. Okay, fine. That's why taking with the pawn is too risky. They play knight d4, and this is where I had to calculate the line. What, guys, do you think is the best option for black in this position? What do you think? Bishop, what? Knight takes d4 or what? Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes knight and knight takes d4, or I can capture on c3. Knight d4, but queen d4. What's the point? If they took with the pawn, then yes, I agree with you. Then bishop b4 is a super dangerous check. But the point is that they capture with the queen, and then I don't have any checks at all. Okay, guys. No, it's knight c3. With knight c3, I gain a pawn. So if they take there, I probably take here. They take my queen. Then I capture on b2. Their knight is hanging. The other knight is hanging as well, and it's actually trapped. So here I am 2 pawns up. Know what they can do. Almost nothing. Or maybe knight e6. Here I'm 1 pawn up, so I have to take it. No, I may first play maybe this move. King goes there, and then I play this. Because the knight is almost trapped, they have to play this move. But this is a completely winning position, who cares? So knight c3, b takes c3 was played in the game, and I took on a3. I was expecting my opponent to play queen e4, which looks really dangerous. And for this move, I prepared queen a5. So just exchange and I'm one pawn up. But he played the best option, he took, then I have to exchange the queens, and then b takes c6, bishop e2. And this is where I made a huge mistake and lost all my advantage. I calculated the line that was the best option, but for some reason decided it's too slow. What do you think, guys? What's the best way for black to continue the development, and how to save the pawn on c6? What comes to your mind? Bishop b7. No, well, bishop b7 and the bishop becomes the object of the attack. So I don't, rook a7 is not a good move, just bishop b8. Castle in this position, maybe. Castle looks risky, but possible. They can play this move, threaten to take on a6. Or they can castle in this position first. And then if I play king e7, then they continue with this move. So the best plan was not bishop b7. The best plan was to play f6, king e7 and e5. If only I could do that, it would say secure my position. So that's why either king e7 or f6 are the moves that we should start with. There is no difference. I played bishop d7, securing on c6. Castle, king e7, rook d2, and a5. Just didn't want to make this, to leave this pawn hanging. I was expecting my opponent to double and to attack here, which I was okay. For example, if they play this move, I play rook a7 and everything looks good. The best thing they can do is maybe bishop d6, which only simplifies. But I didn't notice rook b1 move, and now rook comes into my camp to b6. So bishop c8 again is the best option. Otherwise they would play this and try to get rid of my rook from d8 by playing bishop c7. So bishop c8, rook b6, I have to give up the pawn on c6. Then I play bishop d7. Okay, there is a good question. How is it possible to castle queenside in this position when the dark squared bishop attacks the square that we should castle through? If the king moves through this square, so for example, let's say in this position, castling is impossible because the king goes to d8 and c8 in case of castling and goes through the square that is attacked with the bishop. However, if the rook moves through the square that is attacked with the bishop or with the other piece, it's okay. The rule only the rule works, I mean, the rule that prohibits castling in this position works only in case if the king goes through the square which is attacked with the enemy pieces. So here castling is okay. In this position castling doesn't work because the bishop is covering on d8. Okay, let's continue with the analysis. So bishop d7, rook a6, which was a mistake and allowed me to activate the rook. c4, the position is absolutely equal. a4, h3, an escape square. f6, e5, this is my plan, e5 anyway, so I'm okay to leave the pawn on h7 and protect it. In such a case, I take the one on c4 and get my rook activated. Maybe the one on a2 will be hanging at them. f4. How would you play in this position? Which tactics to look for? What do you think, guys? How to play if I don't want to draw and if I play for a win? Any suggestions? Okay, nobody knows. Wait a sec. Okay, I'll help you. It's just e4. So e4, giving up the pawn. They have to take, otherwise I play f5, yeah, and get a protected pass pawn. So let's say bishop e2, f4. So they have to take, and then I take on c4, but they take on h7. Oh yeah, I lost the pawn. Actually, I sacrificed it, but I have some advantage. Rook c1. This is where my opponent played a mistake. For some reason, he played this move and blundered it. The best move was this, and then I would continue with bishop c5, threatening with bishop g1, and then some discovered attack. Another option is to attack the pawn on a2. So, for example, rook e8, king e7, h4, bishop g1, king h1, bishop d4. I would repeat the position, then try to attack this weakness. He goes there. Then maybe this. Because if he tries bishop g1, or bishop g8, sorry, I can continue with maybe g6 first to stop, and then somehow a3 and so on. Or maybe get my rook to the second rank and play bishop c6 at a certain moment of the game. Anyway, that was my plan. My opponent decided to keep the king to the center, but didn't calculate the line properly. And after bishop c5, he realized that he loses the material. He has two options. He played king f3, the other one was king e2. How to play against king e2 move? What do you think? No, bishop b5, of course, right? But it's not the end. So king e2, bishop b5, king d2. So if I take his rook, then my rook is hanging. What then? Which move you mean? Yeah, bishop a3, exactly, bishop a3. So distract his king, but take his rook. So I'm up the exchange, the position is completely winning. However, my opponent played this move, lost their bishop, and then the game. We played for maybe 5 or 10 minutes more, played maybe 15 moves more, but the game is already over. So simple tactics with 3 or 4 moves to calculate. For example, here it's knight c3 to calculate this option, to calculate this move, but here, for example, you should always look for something like that. And in case of king to f2, yeah, just remember that you have not this, but bishop c5 first, and then rook c3. Okay, and the other game that I would like to demonstrate, actually this game illustrates what you should calculate and what you shouldn't calculate. e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4. It's not Khan Sicilian, it's not Taimanov or Paulson Sicilian. Knight c3, knight c6. Knight b5 is a possible move, and then the line transposes to Sveshnikov variation. e5, bishop g5. I enjoy playing Sveshnikov with white pieces, but this time I think I played a more interesting and complicated line. I played knight c6. Oh, they don't want to pass the game into the end game. B takes c6. e5, knight goes to the center. Knight comes to e4, and my plan is to undermine them. If you know this line, which is actually called Sicilian defense for knight's variation, queen c7 is the main move, then f4, queen b6. Guys who follow my Instagram account probably know this line, because I've already posted it there. What do you think? c4 first. And after bishop b4, what do you think black should play here? Oh, by the way, this is my Instagram account. I'm quite active there this time. Please subscribe. No, I mean follow. Yes, it's king e2. The only move that I can play is king e2. If I block, for example, with the bishop, at least they can capture the pawn. Same thing with the knight. So king e2, but that's okay. Bishop a6, king goes to f3. The knight is hanging. Or f5. No, then I can move to f2. Or actually, usually the line starts with f5 first, knight f2, bishop a6, king f3, don't pin, the knight is hanging, and it goes there. Then I exchange the bishops, and also try to exchange the queens. This is what I was ready to play, this position. So queen b6, then I play b3, then I move my rook to d1 and try to pressure here. My king is pretty safe. That was my plan. However, my opponent played queen a5, and this is where I chose a wrong plan. I played c3, which is actually the most popular move here. But I think bishop d2 is stronger. Bishop d2, and sometimes I can even sacrifice the pawn. For example, queen c7, f4, queen b6, and just bishop d3. A knight b4, I can just leave the bishop unprotected, so let them take, because they have a kind of a hole on d6 that I'm going to occupy. And if they take on b2, I can just castle or play rook b1, and I'm sure I have a full compensation because of better pieces activity. So I played c3, hoping the line transposes to the main line. But no, bishop a6, bishop takes a6, queen takes a6, now I can't castle anymore, so I played b3 with the idea of c4. f5 and pass on. Oh, of course, knight takes f5, knight takes knight, and check on h5. It's a kind of attractive check. King goes to d8. Of course, d8 is better than e7. And here the king is covered with these 4 pawns. So what I should do? The best move is either this or this. No, bishop e3 is the best move. I played queen f3, not to allow them to enter my camp. Bishop e7, of course. Bishop d2 with c4 to be able to castle. And then they play d5. Now, guys, it's your turn. What would you play if you were me, or if you were white in this position? No, c4, so you give up the pawn. c4, d takes c4, then what? If white plays this, black captures, then what can you say about the position? B takes. Parallax, I think you are too optimistic about this move. So c4, d takes c4, b takes, queen c4, and what then? If you play rook c1, just queen d5. And I'm not sure that this is in your favor. I think it's approximately equal. So actually, this is what you don't have to calculate, especially if you play a blitz or rapid game. Why? Because he opens the d file, and after castling you can successfully get your king to a safe place, and at the same time activate the rooks. If they take, you capture with the pawn to attack the queen, so they have to spend another tempo. Then you play rook fd1, and the king is under the pressure. No, if this move, then bishop f4. So this is, I played c4 automatically, I didn't calculate it. So here the best move is king c7, they played king d7. Castle, rook hg8, I decided to activate my pieces. f5, I definitely realized that the idea of this move is to play rook g6 to secure e6. However, actually f5 is already a mistake, and this is where I could win the game immediately. Could you guys please find and calculate the line and tell me how does white win in this position? What do you think? Which move to play to be able to win the game? So it's a rapid game. I'm not sure how much time we had, but maybe about 5 minutes, not more. Okay, guys, yes, you are absolutely correct. The winning move is rook e6. However, this move requires calculations, because this is how we sacrifice the rook. So let's calculate all together. I of course noticed this move, and my intuition told me that this is in my favor, I can checkmate there, but I didn't play it. So because it took time to calculate, so let's start. Rook e6, king has to take. Then I join the other rook. Then he has several moves to play. F6, D6, D7, F7. So we should analyze them all. So let's say we start with this move. How to continue then? Bishop b4, and if c5 now, I take on d5 and he loses the bishop. That's enough to get at least a compensation. This is where we could stop the analysis. So if c5 is not played but the king moves, he loses the bishop anyway. So rook e6, king e6, rook e1, and now if the king goes to d6, the line is covered. After bishop b4, white wins. The other option is king f6. Then I have to activate my bishop, so bishop to c3. Now if the king moves far away of this bishop on e7, I just take the bishop and get a full compensation. Plus I'm sure I'm winning because of the strong attack, but at least I get a material compensation. So if they go to f7 after that, then queen takes f5, king goes to e8, and then I'm not sure how to continue. Maybe this move. Yeah, this move, double attack, works. So I at least gain the bishop, but I think I win the game immediately. Okay, now we see that after rook e6, king e6, and then rook e1, king goes to f6, the line is in my favor after bishop c3. What else? If king goes to f7 immediately, so check, king goes to f7, queen f5, king goes to e8, and then queen h7 is actually okay. It's again a double attack, and I'm able to capture the bishop or the rook. Rook e6, king e6, rook e1, king goes back to d7, queen f5. If king e8, then queen h7, this is what we covered. If king goes to d8, how to continue then? Because if this time I play queen h7 or queen f7 that I like more, they just play rook e8. How to increase the pressure? What do you think? This is the line where I struggled with, and what? So bishop g5 looks the most attractive move to pressure on e7, because if they take, I take the rook on e8. What is a checkmate? So what then? After bishop g5, they can continue with queen b7. And in this case, rook takes e7. Oh, let me do it with a different color. Rook takes e7. If rook takes e7, I play queen f8. King goes to c7. I take the rook, but they escape to b6, and I'm not sure. I'm down the exchange, but I have several pawns as a compensation. How many? 2 pawns as a compensation, plus the attack, but I have only 2 pieces left, queen and bishop, so I'm not sure that the line succeeds. Moreover, let's repeat the line again. So rook e6, king e6, rook e1, king d7, queen f5, king d8, queen f7, rook e8, bishop g5, queen b7, rook takes e7. What if queen e7? If I just continue with bishop e7, then after rook e7 and queen f8, they can just play king to d7, and they can't capture the rook on e8 because of the back rank mate. Sounds complicated, right? I spend all my 5 minutes calculating the line here. That time I just decided, okay, rook e6 works, but it's too time consuming to calculate this option. However, let me now show the exact combination where I win. So check, If I take the bishop, I have enough compensation and I'm sure that I win. If king d6, it's easy. Bishop b4, and in case of c5, queen takes d5. He has to go there, then the game is over. If he goes here, then it's bishop c3, king goes to f7. If king goes to f7 immediately, then queen f5, king e8, and queen h7 is a double attack. So he loses one of these two pieces. Maybe both, or checkmate. But the most complicated line is when the king goes to d7. I take there, he goes there, I play this move. He blocks, bishop g5 looks good, queen b7, and this is where rook e7 doesn't work. No, rook e7 offers some small advantage. Here, I didn't know how to continue. Maybe h4. I'm sure I would find if I go into this combination. But if this move, then there is not much advantage. For example, here I have to repeat to play a check. Queen versus two rooks. If rook takes, then queen f8, king c7, queen e7, king b6. And then I wasn't sure about this line, but right now I see it's winning. Bishop comes there, king goes to a6 or a5, and just queen a3 move. This is what I didn't notice when I was calculating the line. So because it was too time consuming, I didn't went through it. However, wait a sec, I want to show you something. So queen f7, rook e8, bishop g5, queen b7, c takes d5 is the best move, because if now they take, I can capture here. And in case if queen takes, I take on d5. If this move, I take here and I'm winning because of so many pawns. If they move the king to c7, I play rook c1 and deliver a checkmate. For example, in case of this move, queen b5, they block, I take. In case of king b6, rook c6 leads to a checkmate. So there, queen b5, for example. If they don't take, then I just play d6 on the next move. Okay, no, I would find c takes d5, but actually I didn't went through this variation because considered it to be too time consuming. I played this move, hoping they would play this. What exactly happened? And this is where they blundered a simple tactics. The best move was this, to protect on e6 with the queen, but in my opinion this move would open the position. So for example, queen h5, if d4 they lose this pawn, if something else like that, I take there and the king gets exposed. So I played queen e2, they immediately played this move and blundered a simple tactics. What do you think? What's your opinion? Which tactical strike to apply now? C takes d5, right? So c takes d5. I am attacking the queen, so the queen has to take my queen, and then I take here with a check, and I gain a pawn. I also kind of played this move as an intermediate move, king b7, rook e2, rook d8, bishop f4, securing my position, bishop c5 I can't take because of the back rank, but after g3 my position is quite solid. A bishop b6, rook c to e1, attacking here rook e8. And now guys, I want you to come up with a plan. What would you do if you were white? Which plan would you play to play for a win? h4 and h5. No, if I play h4, they gonna play h5, and what then? I actually played it, but later in the game. I can play my pieces activity. I can use my pieces activity. I can play maybe this move with the intention of taking on f5. And that was okay. That was a winning plan. What else can you suggest? Okay, no more suggestions. I played this move to be able to pressure his bishop. h5, h4. Then they somehow played a6. I moved my pawn to a5 and tried to attack using the e file and the d file. And also I could occupy c7 with one of my rooks. So rook goes there and there. So because I forced his pawn to move to a6 and the bishop to a7. This is how I was able to succeed in this game. So instead of winning the game immediately with rook e6, which was too time consuming, which you can't spend, especially if you play blitz game, and can hardly find time to spend on this line to calculate in a rapid game, because if you calculated something for 5 minutes but there was no victory, then you spent this time for nothing, and then you may get into time trouble later in the game. Okay, now, no, I'm sure now you understand what tactics to look for and what to avoid. So now I would like to demonstrate another game I played in Blitz. I was black and I was playing Count Sicilian. Queen c7, bishop d3, and if you guys follow my course, you know that in this position knight c6 is the move that I recommend. The d file is overloaded, and in case if they capture on c6, I capture with my d pawn to be able to play e5, castle, e5. Now I secure the center, and my bishops are much better than the one on d3. h3, bishop c5, so the bishop comes here. For example, in case of knight a4, I would definitely play bishop d4. a3, bishop e6, b4, bishop comes to d4, rook d2. I was expecting bishop b2, I mean, yeah, not bishop, bishop b2 to get rid of the pin, but this move. Now the d file is overloaded again, and I played this. My opponent reacted with this move, and this is where I could apply a tactical strike already. What do you think? Which tactical strike I could apply? I didn't find it, I mean, I did find it later in the game, one move later, and it worked. But it could even work here. No, not bishop h3, it's queen d7. Queen d7 threatening to take here and to attack the bishop. And bishop h3, of course, together with this. You mean bishop h3 and then? No, bishop h3, g takes h3, queen d7, go there. So you gain a pawn. Yeah, probably. So I castled, they played rook d1, and this is where I played queen d7. It doesn't look good as it was before, but after bishop g5 I was able to sacrifice my bishop on h3. So you know, every sacrifice requires calculation. But when you play blitz and when you are low on time, you may play by intuition if you are a good chess player. However, it's not difficult to calculate here that I have these. All the pieces are located outside the king. The pawn on f2 is pinned, and in case if they accept this sacrifice, I can play queen g3 and at least force a draw. Or maybe, in case if they take, I open the g file and join my rook to the attack. So here I played just bishop h3 by intuition, but it was obvious that at least I have a draw. Bishop h3, g takes h3, queen h3, and then they played bishop f6. And I actually was already prepared for this move, because at this moment my opponent decided to do made a pause and decided to think. So how exactly to play, because queen g5 is a real threat. If they, for example, move the bishop away after knight g4, it's not easy to find the way how to save. So for example, this queen g3, go there, knight h2, go there, and then queen f2 mate. So, and I expected them to take. This is what happened. And I played my next move immediately. We were playing with the increment. That's why here I repeated the position to collect time, and then I played this move. What do you think, guys, this move was? What would you suggest if you're looking for a checkmate? Okay, thanks, John. That's absolutely correct. And thank you, Parallax. Rook d6. Rook d6. Rook comes to g6. So I don't know what to play. Maybe knight d5 here. Knight d5. No, then c takes d5. And actually it's only delays. So he played this move, I played check, and after bishop g3 the game was over. So that was kind of a model game of how to play Can-Sicilian. e5, and now black is already better, especially after bishop c5. Then our task is only to improve our pieces, castle, and find a plan to be able to outplay our opponent. Okay, and the last position that I wanted to show you actually was my other blitz game. I don't want to show you the game because it was Italian game without any tactics. Gioco piano, slow Italian game. So this time, before playing this game, I repeated the opening, so I knew what exactly to play, but probably missed something. Yeah, knight c4 is not the best move. Here, queen c2. Queen c2 should be played. b5, knight e3, so I exchanged, and then bishop e3, which is really good because the rook is pinned. Take on a7. Now the knight goes out of the game, however the position is still equal. d4 to undermine, knight goes to the center, they try to exchange, but knight g4, not bad. f5, knight e3. And this is where I try to pressure on b5. f4 was played. I could retreat my knight to f1 to make these all pawns the objects of the attack. For example, queen d5, queen c2. Then try somehow to undermine them. Maybe with knight d2, maybe with something else. No, knight d2 already provokes this move. So I played knight g4, queen comes to c4, and that was a mistake. What do you think, guys? What should I do in this position to be able to gain the material? No, queen takes c4. Okay, queen takes c4, b takes c4, and what then? b5 then. Okay, no, not d5, not b5. Knight e5, yes. So take there, then knight e5 to break the connection. Their best move would be knight e7. And if I take, they play knight d5, gaining this pawn. So actually it's not no, rook e2 maybe. They play this, I play that, and take here. So the position would be my favor anyway. But they took on e5. And of course, this is the tactical strike. Actually, he can't unpin, and I'm going to pass the game into the rook endgame with extra pawn, and also three other pawns are the objects of the attack. Knight f3 doesn't work here, just g takes f3 and the rook is protected. Rook e8, I took with the pawn to be able to attack on c4. And then there is nothing to talk about. You can even sacrifice the pawn on e5, but to promote one of these two. So then the game ended. It was a completely winning position. So what I want you to remember from this webinar: when you play Rapid or Blitz, look for simple tactics which doesn't require you to calculate a lot. If you spend a lot of time to calculate and then you, for example, miss something, some intermediate moves, or you realize that actually this line no longer deserves attention because you don't win in this exact line and there is no advantage, so you refuse it, then you spend such an important resource as time, which is critical in Blitz and Rapid games. So look for something simple. Sometimes you can play by intuition, but actually if you sacrifice something, it should be well calculated. Okay guys, that's all I wanted to share on my webinar. So please, if you watch it on YouTube, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, this is my chess.com account. You can send me a friend request. And this is the link to my YouTube channel. I'm going, starting from this week, this upcoming week, I'm going to post there regularly. So, and of course, I'm waiting for everyone on my next webinar, next Sunday, same time. Okay, guys, hope to see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.